So from writer-director Michael J. Bassett comes an adaptation on a Conan creator Robert E. Howard's earlier creations in this mostly impressive fantasy action and adventure film, Solomon Kane. In 17th century Africa, Captain Solomon Kane fights as a mercenary for Queen Elizabeth I when he leads a blood-soaked pillaging on a nearby castle, only to meet the Devil's Reaper and discover that his soul is bound for hell. Barely escaping, he soon renounces violence to atone for his past sins, seeking out redemption in a life of peace. That is, until the followers of the sorcerer Malachi kidnap a Puritan girl, Meredith Crawthorne, and brutally murder her family before Kane's very eyes. Now, with the risk of damning his soul, but with the hope of soulful redemption, Solomon Kane is forced to take up arms and return to his violent ways once more to rescue her, and to possibly rid these lands of all evil, while confronting the demons of his own past. So Solomon Kane is a film that I wanted to see for a very long time. I've been very, very interested in this film for many years now, but a very long time aside that I can describe a number of different things with this film because originally purchased the rights in 1997 and didn't go into production until 2008, whole 11 years, and once it actually got finished and started going to the festival circuit in 2009, it still took several years again for it to find any distribution here in America for people like myself to actually finally see the film outside of some kind of bootleg circuit. So earlier this year, I found it on Netflix, I sat down, I watched it, and I enjoyed it very, very much. Upon a second viewing here, obviously going in with a little bit more analytical mind, a couple little things that are not all that fantastic, a few shortcomings in this film, but overall, I really think this is a very good film that offers a lot of good, solid, impressive type of things in it. And the most impressive thing in this film, indeed, is the performance of James Purefoy as the titular character of Solomon Kane. He does a fantastic, deep, emotional performance in this film that just absolutely makes it everything that it is. I just love the progression, the journey that we see Purefoy and the script take the character of Kane along, because you see at the beginning of the film that he is this absolutely merciless, vile, sadistic man, this swaggering scoundrel pirate who just lays waste to people all over the place, just sieging a castle, spilling blood all over the place, and taking absolutely relishing pleasure in it. Just for a little bit of greed, a little bit of treasure and everything, a little bit of gold, whatever it is. Just a little bit of something just to appease his own lust for that type of stuff. But then you see shortly thereafter that when you jump in the story that you then see Solomon Kane becoming this deep man of penance and atonement and everything. You see the deep sorrowful nature of this character, that the deep regret and all the pain of his soul and everything that Purefoy just translates, just conveys to the screen with so much power. That's just the emotional quality that Purefoy puts forth in this character, who he's completely, fully absorbed into, is just absolutely fantastically amazing to me. That he just emanates such strength and such deep dimensional power in his performance that it grasps your attention, it captivates you, and just creates such a fantastic character to just, you're wrapped up in his story, wrapped up in his pain and everything, throughout this whole storyline. They just follow this guy through so many interesting highs a little bit, but just so many deep down dark lows. They just get those great moments of a hero who he's just run into the ground. That he just feels, certain moments he feels like he's completely failed himself and failed others. But these moments where he just rises back up, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not about himself. He's completely sacrificial in so many ways throughout this whole storyline. You just see these great, inspiring moments with this character that he'll sacrifice whatever it is his life, whether it's his soul, just so he can do the right thing for the right people. It's such a fantastically realized character through Purefoy's wonderful performance, And it's an interesting dynamic looking at this character with the arc that he goes through as this guy who's just starting out with that vile, sadistic, menacing type of character who's probably one of the greatest warriors anyone's ever heard of, ever seen in action, that you can take a guy with those same skills as the difference between someone who's driven by all that greed and all that lust versus someone driven by a very selfless, sacrificial type of purpose, that he can use those same exact skills to be a warrior for something much more altruistic, something that's just more pure and virtuous and everything. It's a very interesting dynamic that is written so well and performed so well and so well executed by Michael J. Bassett as the director of this film. I think it's just a wonderful character that has a lot of potential beyond just this one film, especially in the hands of this writer, director, and this wonderful actor too. And the film has a very solid supporting cast too. Probably the strongest person here is the late Pete Postlethwaite, who has given the most of anyone in the supporting cast of this film. He just is Puritan, used to be a man of war who just really kind of saw an aversion towards that later on in his life, and he relates to Solomon on a certain level, and Postlethwaite just does a fantastic performance too, just adding that natural weight and gravitas that he has always been known for. Just a wonderful performance that just adds so much to this film just in this one role. And everyone throughout the whole cast is solid actors. Everyone does a great job. Even you get Max von Sydow here, who everyone absolutely knows is a wonderfully talented and magnificent actor, and he puts in a very special performance here as Solomon Kane's father, and it's a very pivotal scene later on in the film. Is just wonderfully acted. Absolutely, just the standards that he has set throughout his career are still powerfully on display in this minor role that he has, that just brings so much substance and strength and pivotal purpose to the whole film too. And the film has some beautiful sweeping cinematography as well. There's just such a great artistic eye on display here, with such opening up of a scope and breadth in the visuals of this film. You just get a great sense of the landscape that they shot in the Czech Republic and the UK and everything. Just, it comes together in such a beautiful looking package. Great use of crane shots where they just really get very dramatic in certain moments where it's really called for, and using some very great angles, everything, a lot of low angles and certain points that just really kind of give you a great sort of scope and stature about certain characters and everything. The whole movie is just so wonderfully shot, including the action sequences, so confidently, steadily shot and everything. Nothing breaks down to that annoying type of action movie trope. This thing is just making sure that it feels much more like a timeless type of film, to give it a nice, even, steady hand in the action. Everything's very well choreographed, well captured. It's shot and it's edited so very well that you continue to get a great sense of all these characters in the visceral environments that they're in without losing the impact of everything. Everything is very well conveyed. Just beautiful looking movie with the cold blue landscape and a lot of the great fiery amber colors. Just two colors that really just work off each other so beautifully, and they use it with so much great purpose in this film. I think the film just looks absolutely spectacular, and there's some great creature effects in this film. Patrick Tatopoulos is a very, very good creature designer and such. He puts together some very kind of creepy and fucking good creatures in this film. From they got cannibals in this movie, these people who have been turned by Malachi's magic and everything, his dark magic, all this kind of type of stuff. So they got these cannibals in this sort of burned down church and everything that make for a pretty good action sequence where Kane gets thrown down into the thing. It's got to kind of run through these underground tunnels. So good scenes there, and there's just like great design of everything, just the art direction, the costumes, everything just has a great lived-in, weathered, textured type of quality that just feels very authentic for these characters to be wearing this type of stuff, and just has so much great detail and everything to make everything just feel very gritty and real, while still adding in those sort of fantastical, dark type of qualities with the witchcraft and sorcery and everything. This film really does a great job of giving you a lot of good, kind of creepy, kind of dark, slightly scary type of creatures and everything. And for the most part, I think the visual effects are very good in this film. Little parts here and there, not gonna fall off here and there, but on the most part, I think there's some very high-end digital visual effects in this film for a $40 million budget. It is very impressive to me that they achieved so much with that kind of a budget, because like I've said so many times, there are movies with $100 million budgets, $150 million budgets that have some CGI that just never holds up very well. And it's good to see that you see different filmmakers who know how to use their budget in the right ways, to pour it into the right ways, and find out the right ways to make their money stretch as far as it can while still maintaining a high quality product. I think this film does that under Michael J. Bassett's direction, and a lot of the very highly talented artists that he had at his disposal going into this film. I think they all did a very, very fine job making this film look very good, between the cinematography, the visual effects, creature designs, all the art direction, the sets. Everything just looks so damn well in this film. And like I said, the film does have some very good action sequences. A lot of horse riding, a lot of sword play, a lot of just great stuff all over the place to make it a very exciting and entertaining film on that level. And I think the storytelling of the film is very lean, very straight to the point type of stuff. There's a lot of points where you could probably really draw a lot of things out and take a lot more time to slowly build things up, but it really kind of hits all the beats it has to without having to go through a whole bunch of other steps to really kind of slowly build up character development and everything. It hits the points it has to and condenses things in a very good way to keep it a very lean and kind of well momentum type of film. But there are some things watching the film again that I do feel are shortcomings to the film, because ultimately the film is only interested in developing the character of Solomon Kane. There are no other real characters here that get any sort of development to really invest yourself in. That it's just Kane's story. No one else really gets. The film doesn't build an overall world to further inhabit. If you wanted to make further films like Bassett intended to, make a whole trilogy of films of Solomon Kane, that if you went into another film, you'd pretty much have to build up everything else from the ground up, because the film doesn't establish anything else outside of the necessities of this one story. None of the other characters are giving any time to develop anything. They're very just there to service the basic plot of the film. And even the villain of the film, Malachi, gets almost no time to really develop himself to anything, because one, the character has a fantastic look. I love the design of him, the makeup look on him. Everything they did with this character looks absolutely fantastic, and this actor in the role looks like he does a very fine job with the very short and truncated material that he's given. That if you would have taken some time, taken a few beats throughout the whole film to peer into this character a little bit, instead of just doing a full sort of unseen build up to the lore of this guy and then showing him in the final act of the film and just kind of rushing through whatever you have to with like the last 10 minutes of the film. If you took some time to really kind of peer into this guy and get a little bit of something into him, really develop him, build him up as a personality in the film, I think it would just strengthen him so much, because the climax of the film is good action all the way through, good ideas, good stuff all over the place. This fucking monstrous fire demon gets unleashed, but everything feels just kind of shortchanged because because you have no other characters developed to really delve yourself into, or even invest yourself into, or have the story deal with any other characters. It's all very truncated. It's all very short, sweet, straight to the point. You really don't have any time to really see Kane really battle this monster, deal with some kind of deadly peril, whatnot. Just like it kind of introduces this fire monster, have about 2 minutes or whatnot of running around this sort of throne room and everything, and then this thing happens, that thing happens, and the film is kind of wrapping up then. So there's no time to really deal with the character of Malachi, or kind of get into a very long, drawn out type of climactic action sequence or whatnot. Just like the film doesn't take any time to develop anything else beyond Solomon Kane to really kind of like, there's nothing else here. If you're not invested in the character, there's nothing else to invest yourself in, because they didn't take any time to build anything else up in the whole film. So it feels like there's no real room for expansion in this whole world of Solomon Kane, because pretty much by the end of the film there's nothing else there that's already been built up in the film that could be carried over into another film if you wanted to do that. So Solomon Kane is a good film. It's a very exciting, entertaining type of film. Purefoy does a absolutely incredible performance in this film. Just if you did go forward with more stories, this guy would be a fantastic hook to keep you invested in the whole story. If you could build up a much more fuller type of world around him, because it takes something like that, the Schwarzenegger, John Milius, Conan the Barbarian, that they built up a larger world for the character to inhabit in that movie, that you could take him on further adventures without having to re-establish new things in every new adventure. You could take elements that are already there from the first film and work stories around those elements. So that's what I talk about when I talk about world building that this film doesn't have. But I still highly recommend this film. For any kind of shortcomings I think it has, it's still a damn good movie. It's still entertaining. It's still a great story with the character involved. Great action in this film. If you like a little bit of sword and sorcery type of stuff, I think this will definitely satisfy you on a good amount of levels. I have the DVD. I'm glad to have the DVD. It has some good features on it with an audio commentary, a couple of making of featurettes, a couple of interviews. Definitely worth checking out. You can find it on Netflix still, so you go check that out right away if you want to. So I do give Solomon Kane a very good recommendation. Not as great as I would like it to be revisiting it here now, but I still give it a very strong, high amount of praise. That if they went ahead with a sequel at some point in time, if opportunity arose, things materialize the right way, I would definitely encourage Michael J. Bassett and Purefoy to work on a much fuller, wider, more epic scale script to really kind of make things a little bit bigger, because everything is very self-contained. Everything kind of really ties back into one another, and everything, this very strong origin story for the character, where everything that is introduced ties back into one another. It doesn't kind of like leave threads hanging. Everything gets tied up at the end of the film in a very nice way. That's what I gotta say about Solomon Kane. If you have seen the film yourself, I would definitely encourage your comments. I'd love to hear what you guys also have to think about it. I think the character is fantastic in Purefoy's hands. And if you read any of the old Robert E. Howard stories, because this was an original story developed by Michael J. Bassett, I'd love to hear what you guys think, how this character in this film holds up to the original stories by Howard. And that's really all I got to say. If you haven't experienced any of that, definitely tell me what your favorite sword and sorcery type of film is. You love Conan, you love Excalibur or Dragon Slayer or various other things. Just throw it out there. Lord of the Rings, of course. This film does have a certain vibe of that. But regardless, won't ramble on any further. So you guys will get more reviews. We'll work on some stuff. Some cool kind of stuff here and there. So won't promise anything at the moment. So take care and bye-bye.